I'm Colleen Yates, and I'm the CEO with Regional Development Australia Perth, and welcome to our show today. With me today, we've got David Cooper. He's with St. Francis, Australia, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what he does. So, David, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm an Australian boy, sort of born and raised in Western Australia from predominantly a farming family, which you probably can't really tell from the way I'm dressed today.
You don't look like a farmer right now.
So, my family of multi-generational farmers for more than 200 years.
Wow.
But obviously I don't do the farming these days. These days I'm a health professional. So I own and run a group of health businesses under the banner of St. Francis Australia, so from pharmacy, medical centre, and now into research and development of health products.
So where are you located?
So our base is here in Western Australia.
Mm-hmm.
We have some presence on the eastern seaboard in Sydney. We even have now some interests overseas in Asia, but certainly the bulk of all our activity is here in Western Australia.
Fantastic. And so, coming from a farming background, tell me a little bit about that. What did you guys farm, and how did you move from farming into what you do now?
Okay. So my family are sort of all over the place a little bit in terms of Victoria. We've got some family in the pastoral areas of Rainbow and Geelong, and we also have some family sort of the southern areas of Capel, but and also into the wheat belt of sort of Corrigin and Merredin. So we're a little spread out, and my parents were not fortunate enough to sort of take on the farming profession, but all our school holidays and family holidays were spent on the family farm, roustaboutting and riding sheep, and so I sort of grew up in that environment. But I guess how it came about is once I finished school and went to university, I decided to study pharmacy and became a pharmacist. But very early on, once I graduated from pharmacy, there was always a bit of a scratch that I couldn't quite itch in terms of the farming background. I think it's in your blood. And so I guess through my experience in pharmacy, I've always felt that there was a need in pharmacy, especially in the health food sector, for more Australian farm produce. Does that sort of explain?
Yeah, it does. We've had Mary Harris on previously, and she talks a lot about the importance of food and health. And so, is that kind of what you're getting to? Is you can actually look after your health through better food?
I think, look, it really all started in terms of where we're at today and what I want to talk to you about today. Back when I was about 21, when I finished my pharmacy degree, I travelled a lot through Asia, and I could see the demand and the way that the Asian consumer was embracing holistic therapy. And I think growing up in that farming environment, farmers are very proud of their produce. They're very proud of what they produce, and sometimes they probably feel as though it's treated a bit like a commodity. So I always felt that we could do better as a family. I thought we could do better with our produce. So I guess merging all of that, my experience in seeing what was happening in Asia, my experience on the family front, and now experience as a healthcare professional, what I'm trying to do now is merge those three worlds, and we're now 2 years into research and development of a range which we're calling From Our Farm Australia, which will be holistic, whole food, active whole food that are sourcing Australian farm product and producing it and packaging it in a way that families, both domestically here in Australia and internationally, can incorporate into their diet for health benefits.
That sounds fantastic. So, is it innovation in how you do this, or so how do you capture the nutrition and put it into a product that then you distribute?
Okay, so it's a little complicated.
Okay.
But it really all starts at the farming level.
Yep.
So we've spent, as I said, the better part of 2 years finding great farms, with great farming practice that produce great raw product, and what we're trying to do is take that raw product, and really we don't really want to do much with it. We want to try and package it in a way that doesn't incorporate preservatives, that doesn't incorporate fillers or chemicals, that really just showcases the raw farmed product.
Yep.
But packages it in a way that families can benefit from a health perspective.
So do you work with organic farmers?
We do, yeah.
Yes.
Predominantly in Tasmania. We've started working with some organic fruit producers. So, for instance, one of the products that we're developing now is a organic fruit, which we package with a dairy produce, which is effectively yogurt. And we package it in a way where we don't have any preservatives, we don't have any sugar substitutes or fillers, but we preserve it and package it in a way that has a long expiry date. But the main health outcomes for families with this product in particular is it's chock full of omega-3, 6 and 9 for brain development in children, for instance. So the end goal with that is to try and incorporate it on supermarket shelves as a healthy snacking option for families, and also for school canteens.
So is this the innovation around this? Is it something that's new, or did you bring it in from overseas in terms of being able to capture that nutrition? How is it done? Is it?
So we're not really reinventing the wheel from the point of view of how it's preserved.
Yep.
Effectively, what we're doing with this product is we're just removing the water.
Okay. So is it a dry product?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're using liquid nitrogen effectively to remove the water. And once you've removed the water, we know we don't have to add any preservatives. That effectively preserves it. And then we package it in a way that it doesn't expose it to any water or air. But the way we mix it and the way we handle it, that's quite unique.
Yeah,
because we need to preserve all the vitamins that are in the raw product, so that we can deliver as much of those vitamins and health benefits to children.
Fantastic. So do you follow like an ISO traceability schedule in terms of in working with different farms, and if somebody gets the end product, they know where their product comes from?
We're not there yet.
Yes.
But we're certainly probably halfway getting to the ISO type. That's a very, very comprehensive.
It is.
Sort of step program, and we know that internationally some other countries will ask for that. Yep. But right at the moment, we're still very much at the sort of the tail end of research and development, and finishing all the packaging and really just trying to get it ready for the domestic market. Okay.
So who's your first market? What are you looking at, like the Coles and Woolies, or
no
the health food stores?
No.
Nope.
Schools.
Schools. Oh wow, fantastic.
Yeah. So
that would be really good.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Yep.
So I'm living it right now. I can see the opportunity. My children go to public schools, and the public school system, I can see that there's still a lot of meat pies and
the old canteen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Chips and I think we could probably do a little better. So one of our long-term goals is to re-educate families and re-educate schools, and so I think that's the low-hanging fruit for us. I think that's where we'll start.
So have you identified some schools that you're going to begin with?
Yeah, certainly my kids' school. I've already spoken to the canteen manager. So we've got a list of all the public schools, and there is I think a local body that distribute to all the public schools. So I think we'll start with them. and distribute from there.
Because I do know there's a number of schools, I know in my area, that they're really trying to look at alternatives, to nutrition through the canteen and through the P&C. A lot of volunteers are actually, working on that. So this sounds really fantastic.
Yeah, look, I can see that, and I can see that P&Cs, I can see that the distributors, I think that there's intent. Mm-hmm. I can see that the menus have changed since certainly I went to school, but I still think we can do better, and I think probably at a supplier level, that's where it needs to probably improve. I think that the canteens want to do better. Parents definitely want to do better for their kids, and certainly the P&C committees want to do better, but perhaps maybe there isn't enough options for them.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, what I'm trying to do at the moment is create a holistic option that the children will love, but equally school canteens and parents will love as well.
So how long in terms of, with your initial target market, how long do you feel that you'll run that effective trial until you can then start to distribute it much further?
To commercialise?
Yep.
We're pretty close. We've already run 3 semi-sample runs.
Yep.
We've started testing the market, literally hitting the street and giving it to kids and parents and gauging their feedback, so doing that market research. So we think by the end of 2018 calendar year, we should be ready to commercialise.
Oh, fantastic.
And release it to market, yeah.
So in terms of, so is it the domestic market you're primarily interested in, or are you looking at eventually moving into export?
Absolutely export.
Yeah.
As I said, sort of hinted at before, I can see the axis, the global axis has definitely moved to Asia. Mm-hmm. We know that the Australian farm produce, particularly with a holistic health pitch, will fit the Asian market. So that's certainly where we want to be longer term. But in the short term, we just want to focus on the Australian domestic market and try and re-educate maybe retailers, re-educate influencers like schools, and re-educate parents and try and give them other options that they can give to their families.
So you're saying that you removed the water, and you previously said you had a product that was fruit and dairy. Does that mean it's like a dried yogurt product?
Effectively,
wow.
Yeah. So one of our products is a dried yogurt, but it's an active dried yogurt.
Yeah. So the cultures exist.
Yeah. So full of active probiotics for gut health and for immune health for children. Full of all the vitamins like vitamin C, which also complements that immune health stimulus, and also with the omega-3, 6, and 9. So we think we're onto a good thing.
Fantastic. And are you aware of the Western Australian Farmers Market Network?
No.
No, there's a range of farmers markets around Western Australia, and in particular here in Perth.
Right.
And it's a direct marketing opportunity for new products, especially with the types of things that you're talking about. So that might be an option for you to take a look at.
I think it's a great fit for us.
So, and a lot of these farmers markets in the city are actually located at schools, so on the grounds of schools. So, yeah, I'd be happy to put you in touch with some of that.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. So, look, on top of the yogurt and fruit product, we're also developing some rice-based products as well.
Yes.
With some certified organic rice. So, the end goal really is to pitch the whole family from birth and all the way up to adults. So, very exciting.
So, with commercialization potentially at the end of 2018, and you're saying you're looking at the Asian market, where do you think, Singapore first, or? No,
I think certainly Singapore. I think is on the map for us, but just with my network, I think probably China is where we'd like to engage with and see whether there is some interest, and obviously we'll have to work through the government regulations. But China is certainly low-hanging fruit for us as well.
Will you be looking at getting the certified organic label on your products?
Yeah, so for China, you mean, or in Australia?
Or domestically and overseas?
So we already have the ability to stamp some of our products.
Yep.
But not the whole range at the moment, because as I said, there's a lot of steps that you need to go through to get to that point. But longer term, absolutely. And internationally, there's even more hoops that you have to sort of jump through.
Yes, definitely.
And China in particular, very comprehensive. So we want to work with them. We're in this long term. This is not a short term thing for us. I've had this idea since I was 21. I'm nearly 40. So we've certainly taken a long-term view with this project.
Good. So what's the range of products that you have? So you've got some dairy and fruit, and you're talking about rice. What else is in the mix?
There's literally hundreds and hundreds of derivations and formulations that we can move with. But we really just want to start with 9 SKUs or nine product types initially. And we think there's enough in that 9 SKUs to launch. But the flavour additions and the different sizes and different forms, literally there's hundreds and hundreds of line extensions that we've got in mind. So
fantastic. So it's just you're involved, and is it your whole family involved in this, or?
The family's involved in terms of encouraging.
Yeah.
But the day-to-day grunt,
yes,
that's me.
That's just you.
That's me and my very small family team. We're very much a family business, but we've got big aspirations, big goals, and the world's our oyster. We want to take it on.
Consider yourself a startup in the food industry?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Very much a startup. I mean, we're not focused on supermarkets for distribution. We're focused on schools and the farmers market idea that you just proposed. I mean, as soon as this interview's finished, I'm going to be engaging you, and I think that's a great idea. Because
everybody thinks around innovation, they think, science and technology and space, and we've had some interesting discussions on our show here, but nobody thinks much about innovation in food. So I think it's really interesting that you're actually looking at this particular area, and for us, from a peri-urban perspective, we feel that it's this type of innovation that needs to move forward, to encourage small farms and organic farms, to increase and benefit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that there's a want at nearly every level. If the most basic level in families, there's a want there. They want to eat healthier. There's a want at a farming level to do more with their beautiful raw product.
Yeah.
So there is a desire, but maybe there's, I don't know, maybe from my perspective, there's not enough pathways that have already been made for all those different interests to go down. So does that make sense? It
does make sense. Years back, I used to grow chilies. I introduced New Mexico chilies to the Australian market, and I remember back then the difficulty that existed in terms of breaking into the market, because you had to make it, you had to either be with Coles or Woolies.
Yeah.
And that's that, and then you'd had to follow all these rules and regulations around that. Yeah. So it's I think it's a little more difficult for smaller producers or specialized product to actually move through this.
What year was that?
That was in the 1990s.
Okay, so I think the world's changed. I think the internet, social media, mobile phones, the ability now for people with ideas to bring it to market and not have to go through just supermarkets.
Yeah.
I think the time is now. So if people have ideas, I think have a crack.
So do you have a website?
Yeah, we do. So we've developed a website which is FromOurFarm.com. It's also .au, but we've just gone with a .com now. We want to go global. So FromOurFarm.com, and that's got all the information, and we'll be blogging and sharing the story as we progress.
Yep. Fantastic.
Especially when we go to the farmers market, we'll video ourselves selling our products to mums and dads.
Yeah, that would be really great, because the whole purpose of the farmers market is just that. It's direct marketing, getting the producer to the market, And so, yeah, I think that would be really great.
Yeah, that's definitely the next step for us. I think that by year's end, as I said, we'll be commercial.
Yeah.
So really the pathway for us now is just to share the story.
Yeah. So with the technology side, in terms of, the removing the water, is it going to be, let's say that, once you finish in 2018, with the trials, is it going to be a lot for you to upscale, into where you need to go to meet bigger markets?
No, I don't think it'll be too hard. I think that there's a capacity that we probably will reach in terms of supply.
Yeah.
We're after premium produce, and that's feeding the world from areas like Western Australia, Victoria and Tasmania. There will be a limit.
Yeah.
So that's probably going to be our only limiting factor. But in terms of production, just buy more machines. I don't think that'll be that hard.
Buy more machines.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and thanks for listening to our show today. I'm Colleen Yates. I'm the CEO of Regional Development Australia Perth, and don't forget to press that subscribe button. Thank you.
Hi, well, I'm lucky enough to just been listening into your guys' interview, Colleen and David. Really interesting, Colleen, you mentioned there's lots of innovation, and Regional Development Australia is right on top of that. We've had the lithium batteries, had some sensational guests on the show in the other videos. Innovation in food. In your travels, are you finding there is now a trend to this? Are you finding people starting to push the barriers, Colleen?
I think we're actually, yes, at a point where we need to find innovation in our food, because we've gone actually really big in terms of agricultural production, but there seems to be a trend now to move a little bit smaller and look at those opportunities, and with smaller farms and moving into organics, which require a different set of management, so I think finding innovation in food would be fantastic, not only in the value adding of food, but also the production. So from our rural or peri-urban work, we've actually looked at glasshouse and greenhouse point source type of activity, to where you don't have environmental impacts, and you can manage your water and you can recycle. So I think the combination of what David's doing, combined with the approach and moving into those closed loop systems, I think is something that would be really fantastic.
It's interesting you mentioned there, Colleen, about farming practices changing, and David, you're very close to farmers and seeing these practices. We've seen, especially in Western Australia, and I know throughout Australia, farming practices change to protect the land. They've improved their soil qualities, and they've realised farming practices that 30, 40 years ago, we've come a long way, and it's totally different. Are you finding, when you're talking to farmers now, that their passion is now they're not only improving the land quality again, but now they've got a passion to go, we can start to bring this innovation to our food and improve our food quality as well?
Yeah, look, farmers are innovative by nature, and they have to be, especially in rural areas such as Western Australia, because they're on massive properties, 10,000, 20,000 acres. So you're a long way from getting help from the local tradesmen. So any time that they need to fix things or improve their production facility, they rely on themselves. So I think by nature they're quite innovative, and I think that farming practice, certainly since I was a child, it's changed no end. It's continually improving in terms of efficiency, and as you said, with the salinity issues, farmers don't wait. They deal with a lot of these problems on their own.
When you're talking to farmers and you're writing to these active and these whole foods, David, what is it you're learning that's keeping this passion and keeping this drive? Because it is, every small business owner's going to know it's tough to start a business, and you're starting one in a really cutting edge market as well.
Because I know what we're doing is good.
Yeah.
It's we've got purpose. It's a good thing what we're doing. As a father now myself, and a busy father. Almost said farmer. I want to be a farmer.
Father, your parenting is a little like farming.
Yeah, it is a little bit. But as a father myself, shopping for quick snacks that I can give to my children, there's not a lot of options out there. So I know that what we're doing is a good thing. I know it's going to help. I know we're right at the forefront, and I hope we're one of many more companies, including the big guys, that do similar things with what we've started doing.
See, it sounds to me like the health benefits, the farmers and so forth are now seeing it. And Colleen, with the peri-urban, for those who haven't watched the other video, could you just give us a snapshot of what because it's very, very exciting, peri-urban.
Peri-urban is actually that interface between the urban landscape and the rural landscape. And so it's quite a mixed use area. So you've got a lot of subdivision that takes place. So you've got large tracts of land that are subdivided into smaller tracts, and they're often called lifestyle blocks. So you've got 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres. And so people are moving onto these places, and they're wanting to take up some agricultural activity, but often they're not to the scale that's required, to meet the bigger markets or sometimes even the export. So, there's a lot of things that in that peri-urban space that can be done. Direct marketing is one, through farmers markets, but also cooperative, moving into, the provision of foodstuffs cooperatively, and purchasing things cooperatively as well.
Do you know, can I just interject? In Japan, have you travelled much in Japan?
Actually, I've only been to the airport in Japan, so no, haven't travelled in Japan.
Well, if you leave the airport,
a
lot of the genuine farms are operating off less than 2 acres.
Yes.
So perhaps...
and they're going vertical as well.
They've
got a number of farms that are all completely enclosed.
Yeah.
Recycled water, they've got specialized lighting, in order to meet the demand.
So I wonder whether the peri-urban farmers, or this program that you're a part of, whether you could learn from the Japanese.
Definitely. We've actually incorporated some of the technology that they've got, and we're trying to bring that to the peri-urban space. And that's all that glass house, greenhouse, and what I call point source. So you've got you can recycle your water. You can grow on very small areas, but you actually grow vertically rather than across a wide space. It's
fascinating, the changes. What was interesting when you were saying you don't use preservatives and you use a drying method, so you don't have to. I suppose we hear a lot of chemicals, and just so people watching who may not be as au fait and as qualified as yourself, you say you're drying it with liquid nitrogen. So I suppose a question may pop in people's mind: does that leave any traces that we should be aware of?
Of liquid nitrogen?
Yeah.
No.
What does it do?
Look, it's effectively NASA technology. It was in, as I understand it, for viewers. Space. Yeah, there's
so it's back to space.
Back to space again. Sorry. I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but my understanding is that NASA either incorporated some of this technology, or certainly may have even invented it, for astronauts. So it was a way of healthily preserving foods for astronauts in space to rehydrate and feed themselves. So look, it's 60, 70-year-old technology that we're using, but we're using it in a way that can produce and preserve this wonderful Australian farm produce.
I'm glad you answered that, because I'd heard the same thing, that it was space, and probably through Colleen and some of the people she's talked to. One thing you said, you call it active whole foods.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Okay,
so there's two things there. Whole food is effectively minimally handled food. So what we try and do, for instance, is find this fantastic yogurt product and fantastic organic fruit product, and we literally churn it, freeze dry it, and that's it. So we're trying to cut back the number of steps So unprocessed is effectively what whole food is. Active is where when you ingest the food, an active outcome occurs, an active chemical process almost occurs. So a bit like when you swallow a tablet or take a medicine, there's activity with that medicine. So if really we're merging two worlds, the sort of the medical world and the farming world. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It certainly does. You mentioned something, and we've talked with people on foods, and especially peri-urban and the things going on there with farmers. Brain development in our children. You mentioned omega-3, 6 and 9. And I think you're saying this is very specific to the yogurt product. Did I hear that correctly when you were talking?
Yeah, it is. It is. So we know within the medical fraternity there's some quite sound clinical evidence now that if we incorporate and dose omega-3, 6 and 9 fatty acids in children's diet, and quite high dose, we know that there are positive outcomes in terms of brain development, mood, concentration. So we've already been using a lot of these types of products for many, many years, but primarily as a medicine, not really so much in food.
Okay. As a business, Colleen, you see a lot of businesses, and Regional Development Australia is very supportive of innovation. Where do you see innovation in food fitting into specifically Western Australia, where we are? Do you think we can be a central hub to promote and support this?
I think we can. I think Western Australia, and I think this has been proven through the lithium discussions, is that we're really good at primary processing and taking the primary outcomes and exporting them, and then we import them back as other products, right? And what we lack is the capacity to value add and actually create higher value products that then we export, but we don't export them back as another product. So, and I think in the food space, this is going to happen. We sit on the doorstep of the largest population in the world, and that population is moving more and more into the middle class, and they're going to have more and more demands in terms of having convenience foods and having a whole range of things. But then on top of that, there's going to be a demand around nutrition and quality. So I think what you're doing is actually fitting well into that space. And the more that we can value add our primary product here in Western Australia and export that, I think that's we're going to find the future of our jobs.
Is this why RDA is passionate about like the outer harbour development for exports that allows companies like David's who grow and are ready to export, it gives them a facility to do that? Because at the moment we're a bit congested in Fremantle's a great port, but we do need to get that on the main trade route for export.
Yes, these activities such as what David's undertaking and I think there's others out there that are growing. The lithium, of course, being one of them. Yes, we do need to have considerations for the new port in terms of how that port is going to meet the needs of the economic activity for the state in delivering it to overseas markets. So, the more that we look at containerized shipping, down at Kwinana and transition out of Fremantle, that will allow Fremantle to open up for tourism opportunities.
Yeah.
So.
And I know with the outer harbour, because we're on the main shipping route there, and you mentioned China, David, for your product. Is your product going to have the shelf life to be put on a ship and actually go to China? Will it last that long?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's one of the key things that we've been working on the last 2 years is how can we create a whole food, a natural product, an active product, but do it in a way that actually does give good expiry dates. So we're already at that point. We've got great expiry dates.
And you mentioned China, and we've gone through this drama of the baby food formula because ours is such a high quality. It's been grabbed off the shelves and gone overseas. Do you find that those Asian markets already have a perception that the food quality that comes out of Western Australia, Australia, is it that high quality does have an intrinsic value to them, makes it a high demand?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the word that I think of is fortunate. We're very fortunate in Australia that we have that reputation. But whilst we do have that fortune, we've got to be very, very careful, because it only takes one incident and we can lose that. So I think it's every stakeholder within the industry, at a supplying level, at a farming level, at a retailer level, we all have a responsibility to understand the fortunate position that we're in, and do everything we can to maintain it and build on that, because we're in a great spot. So as business leaders, we've got a great responsibility to really do everything we can to maintain that.
Is that why with your company you're almost taking baby steps? You're going to go to the schools first, which is a good target audience, but it allows you to, and you said you're working towards ISO. Is this so you can start getting those traceabilities into place before you go overseas, so you're ironing out any mistakes before they happen? Yeah,
more or less. I think also, just in simple terms, we're a small business, we're a family business. So we need to make sure that we can walk before we can run. We have massive aspirations. We want to export. We want to take on the world, and we're very ambitious. But we want to make sure we get it right. And if we can get it right in schools, then Woolworths, Coles, or all these other bigger brands, they'll look after themselves. But we think the strategy we have is the right one.
It's interesting you're saying like your steps. I know you've mentioned in your interview you picked 9 products. Colleen, from your experience, in your vast experience in business and dealing with business leaders, do you think the 9 products, or having a several product approach to launch, is better than a single product approach to launch?
I think what Dave was saying is correct about getting it right, and if it's on one product, making sure to get that one product right, or just a handful of products. You don't want to spread yourself too thin. So I think yes, it's about getting those products absolutely right, and getting it to what the market is looking for is really important.
Is that the exercise you went through, David, trying to find that? Because you said about you've got so many products you can do.
Hundreds of them.
So you go from hundreds down to 9. Was it a bit of an exercise to narrow it down to the 9 you felt were the best ones to launch with?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I was talking about before, we've already performed 3 sample runs, and within the sample run there were other derivations and other flavour profiles, and we learnt from some initial market research, literally hitting the streets and feeding it to kids and waiting for the feedback and doing questionnaires. But we feel as though we've got it right, and also launching it into schools this will be an ongoing learning process, an ongoing refining, and we're going to continue to work on every step of the process: sourcing, manufacturing, marketing, packaging. It's going to be an organic, live process.
Yeah, I must admit, on a personal note, I love the name From Our Farm. And talking to Colleen and the business people you've had in, the farm is really coming to the top, isn't it? Really coming to the fore with peri-urban farming, with the markets, farmers and so forth. It is really becoming a very, very topical issue these days.
I think that's reflected even across the Coles and Woolies range, because they now in their advertising show their farmers, and so they're trying to make that connection between the consumer and the producer, and so I think people are wanting that more and more, and I think that is probably as we go global, being able to demonstrate that is going to be really important.
David, just as closing, someone looking at food products now and they're trying to get the best for children, why is the whole foods, because you work in pharmacy, you work in all this industry, what would be the number one benefit you would see for a family in making the shift into getting better quality foods?
I think total health. I think we don't all take tablets, we don't all take medicines, but we all eat. So we need to eat wisely. And from a young age, it's very, very important that we educate our next generation to eat wisely, because there's ramifications later on in life. We all know about the obesity issue. I think what you touched on there with Whole Foods really at its core is about not adding waste, sugars, lactose, fillers, and preserving all the goodness of great raw product. So really for mine, it's just about total health.
Fantastic. David, Colleen, it was great to, I know you're in a hurry, but I couldn't resist but jumping on your show and ask some questions. It's been absolutely fantastic. David, your website is www.FromOurFarm.com, and Colleen, you want people to subscribe?
Yes, we want you to subscribe to our channel, because we have a lot more interesting people that we're going to bring on, a lot more interesting conversations that we're going to have about what Western Australia has to offer. Thank you.